Thank you and welcome to our guests. Marie-Angèle, you know, Africa continues to grow above the global average. So GDP growth for Africa as a whole for 2015 was 3.6%, which is the second fastest in the world. Let me highlight that 5 of the 10 fastest growing economies in the world are in Africa, and they are the Democratic Republic of Congo, Ethiopia, Cote d'Ivoire, Rwanda, Tanzania. All these economies are growing at 7% or better, and which, as you know, is generally considered to be the level necessary to make a significant dent in poverty levels.
And congratulations to those countries on that list. In your opinion, what were the key drivers that explain Africa's growth as a whole?
Africa's resilience is explained by several factors. First is, of course, the continued strong macroeconomic policies in our member countries. There's been significant investments in public infrastructure. There's high domestic demand. And let's not forget the expansion in the services sector, retail, finance, communication, technology. These are all factors that have contributed and continue to ensure the growth across the continent. This also shows that our economies are steadily diversifying.
Let me now turn to you, Asatu. Are these factors inhibiting an even stronger economic performance?
Yes, Africa growth could have been higher. However, the falling commodity prices, the weakening global trade, climate change, conflicts, and terrorism have all put pressure on the fiscal and current account balances of some of our member countries. And as you can see from the slides, those gaps have been widening. And interestingly enough, the commodity prices have played a significant role in the growth of all exporting countries. However, estimates have shown that only 21% of Africa's growth over the past 10 years is explained by the commodity prices boom. And if you attended the African Economic Outlook presentation on Monday, you would have heard chief economists indicating how a 1% drop in commodity prices has a 0.2% effect on the GDP of Africa. So what we need is for growth to be stronger, for growth to be sustainable, and to be less volatile through structural transformation and economic diversification.
Well, structural transformation indeed. For the growth to be sustainable, Africa needs to invest in growth-enhancing infrastructure projects, which, as you know, will contribute to a more inviting business climate, a more inviting business environment, which is absolutely necessary for private sector growth and development. Of course, challenges remain, and hard choices need to be made. Just as an example of just the road that we still need to travel, in 1990s, it's going back a few years, 57% of Africans lived on $1.25 or less a day, and that was then 284 million Africans. In 2014, 14 years later, the percentage had decreased, but of course it belies the truth. There's 43%, but then you have a lot more Africans, 420 million, that are living on $1.25 or less. So there's quite a bit of work to be done still.
Indeed, but despite those hard choices, along with the challenges ahead, how does the bank plan to support the entire continent?
We have a plan, and it's a plan that focuses on 5 priority areas that we call the high fives. In fact, we have more on that on a very short video that we want to share with our audience.
Oh, we are all looking forward to watch this video, aren't we? So let's watch it.
In 2015, world leaders agreed to a set of sustainable development goals to eliminate extreme poverty from the planet by 2030. The 10-year strategy of the African Development Bank, guided by the twin objectives of achieving inclusive and green growth, is consistent with this global ambition. To accelerate the delivery on the 10-year strategy and to advance the transformation of Africa, in 2015, the bank decided to place a sharper focus on 5 priority areas. We know them as the high fives. First, to light up and power Africa. Because over 640 million Africans have no access to energy. Second, to feed Africa, because the continent is home to more than 230 million undernourished people. Third, to industrialize Africa, because Africa is at the bottom of the global value chain with its share of global manufacturing at just 2%. Fourth, to integrate Africa, because intra-Africa trade is the lowest globally. Fifth, to improve the quality of life for the people of Africa, because health and education outcomes in Africa are among the lowest in the world, and because Africa has insufficient access to sanitation and safe drinking water. During 2015, the bank group approved loans and grants worth some $8.8 billion, an increase of 25% over 2014.
If you have electricity, it could be easy. Same to our siblings. It can help my mom when cooking.
But they are not able to access because of lack of lights. The performance of the grass goes down.
We live on the sale of this rice and have been able to buy land and build our houses.
When we have access to water here, everything will change.
Now, thanks to the road, we can sell our hunting, fishing, and farming products and make money to build houses and furnish them. This passing trade brings an income so we can prepare for our future and that of our children.
The bank group financed $42.4 million out of the $52.6 million Central Africa Backbone Project. The project will lay 916 kilometers of fiber optic cable that will dramatically improve internet access in Cameroon and neighboring countries. 20,000 farmers will finally have access to timely information that will allow them to take more informed decisions and to better market their products. The Gambia River Basin is suffering from very low access rates to electricity, and power generation in the region is not meeting the growing demand. So, in 2015, the bank group approved about $134 million for the project. This will help finance the development of a 128 megawatt hydroelectricity dam and an interconnection network of some 1,700 kilometers. It will also benefit 1.3 million people in the region who will soon have access to renewable, clean, affordable, and reliable energy. In Uganda, high energy costs coupled with unreliable supply affect economic performance and the delivery of social services. So the bank group extended a $100 million loan to finance the Rural Electricity Access Project, which will improve electricity access in rural areas from the current 7% to an estimated 26%. In 2015, the bank group also approved a $300 million loan to finance the construction of 912 kilometers of railway running through landlocked Malawi along the Nacala corridor to Mozambique. Our ambitions are huge, helping Africa achieve universal energy access, moving the continent to the top of the value chain, developing high-quality regional infrastructure, helping Africa seize the opportunity for massive agricultural transformation, creating jobs and offering new hope for the young people of the continent. We will leverage our power and strength. We will work with our partners. We will put Africa on its path to transformation.
Thank you for sharing this video that highlighted some of the development assistance activities of the bank. I hope that you enjoyed it as much as we did here. Now let's pick a different topic, Charles. As a bank, you need to be financially sustainable, right? How do you continue to consistently have positive income despite the uncertain economic times that we are facing?
Indeed, Marie-Angèle, as we do what we've been set up to do, which we saw some aspects of it in the video, we also need to continue to ensure our financial sustainability so that we can do even more. As we discussed in the economic outlook, that brief look, the commodity price slump has had, of course, a negative effect on some of the bank's non-sovereign guaranteed private sector operations. And accordingly, we've had to increase our provisioning against that portfolio. In addition, as you all know, interest rates are perhaps at historically low levels, and in fact, in some of the currencies of our treasury operations, the interest rates are actually negative. So the question is, how do you continue to essentially generate positive income in such an environment? Notwithstanding everything that I've said, we were able to generate $190 million of allocable income, of which 58 million of it is going to add to our reserves, shore up our reserves, and the remaining 132 million is distributed to support various development initiatives across the continent. I should highlight that since 2006, so over the last 10 years roughly, the bank has generated $2.9 billion of income, of which 1.2 billion of it has been used to strengthen our reserves, and 1.7 billion of it used to support various development initiatives across the continent. So, you asked the question, how are we assuring a strong financial and operational profile in a challenging environment? Allow me to just mention a few points. One is, of course, the continued strong support of our shareholders. Thank you very much. And then, very important, is prudent financial management, including, of course, a relentless search for efficiencies in the use of our administrative and capital budgets. Now, that's extremely important. And in this regard, I'd like to share with you, people don't often know this, that Standard & Poor's, which is one of our rating agencies, and we're also rated by Moody's, Fitch, and the Japanese credit rating agency, puts together comparative analysis of the relative efficiencies of banks. One of the indicators they use, of course, is the admin expense to your equity. And on this measure, the bank has consistently been one of the most efficient. So it's a bit of information that we thought we should share with our audience. And then there is, of course, an increase in terms of the things we're doing to assure our financial sustainability, increased business development, including developing appropriate instruments for our member countries. And then finally, let me add that we, of course, employ consistently the best standards in risk management, and we continue to improve them. That's absolutely essential.
Thank you, Charles. Let me now turn to you, Asatu. Understand that the AFDB is involved in a number of innovative initiatives and partnerships to leverage its balance sheet, but given the urgency of needs across the continent, how can its impact be accelerated?
The financing needs of Africa to develop its economies and meet the sustainable development goals are huge and far exceeds what the African Development Bank Group can provide from its own resources alone. And this is why we need development partners. We need the private sector, and we need the African countries themselves to come together for this. And at our end, we are leveraging our experience, our competencies, our reputation, our financial footing, and we have established large-scale partnerships, for example, with Japan through the EPSA facility, whereby Japan is providing $3 billion to the African Development Bank to support its private sector strategy. And $2 billion from China through the AGTF to co-finance both public and private sector projects. And we also have Africa 50, which you know about. And Africa 50 was launched by the African Development Bank to address the huge infrastructure needs of the continent. The Africa 50 has already received $830 million in equity. And as you know, the medium-term target is about $3 billion. And last year, thanks to the African Development Fund's donor, we were able to establish a private sector credit facility which will catalyze an additional $1 billion of additional funding to lower-income countries in Africa over the next 3 years.
So let's talk about guarantees, Asatu.
Okay, so I will focus just on two of our products, the partial risk guarantee and the partial credit guarantee. So if I start with the partial risk guarantee, actually our guarantees instruments have been designed to address the perception of high risk that Africa has. And they allow or they enhance access to funding for projects that are deemed, for example, too risky to qualify for private sector financing. So through our guarantees product, what we do, we leverage our creditworthiness, our experience, our relationship with African countries, and we are able to attract and crowd in private sector funding.
Could you tell us more about these instruments?
Okay, so for the partial risk guarantee, we have catalyzed over $2.7 billion of investment through that guarantee product. And some of the flagship projects that we have covered are shown on the screens. In Kenya, we have the wind farm Lake Turkana. In Nigeria, it was the energy sector reform that we covered. And we also covered in Kenya as well, geothermal development projects. So what we are able to do actually with the partial risk guarantee is to protect lenders against convertibility risk, against the risk of nationalization, confiscation, expropriation, against war, civil disturbances, even against breach of government agreements, political and force majeure risk as well.
And what about the partial credit guarantee?
Now for the partial credit guarantee, what we do is that we covered a portion of scheduled loan repayments on loans or bonds repayments, and we covered them against both political and commercial risk. And for commercial risk, for example, it can typically include adverse movement in commodity prices or demand risk, or it can be as well foreign exchange rate risk, interest rate risk, and so forth. So what we've done actually with the PCG, two examples. One was Seychelles, where we covered the debt restructuring of a sovereign bond from Seychelles that had defaulted in the international capital market. And with Cameroon last year, what we did with our guarantee was to enable Cameroon to swap or to hedge the proceeds of its first dollar bond issue into euro.
And Charles, maybe you have something to add to that.
Yes, Assetu has covered them all, but just to add that we are stepping up our efforts to make these instruments better known in our member countries. That's one message that comes out clearly from our conversations.
That's interesting. Are there other instruments that you're using to go further?
Yes, and let me just share with you just one recent example to address high concentration risk. As you know, concentration risk or heavy concentration goes into the calculation of the bank's risk-adjusted capital, which is one of the capital adequacy measures used by the rating agencies. To bring down concentration risk and free up more capital to grow our business in certain countries, in December last year, 2015, the bank executed what we consider to be a landmark exposure exchange agreement with the World Bank and also with the Inter-American Development Bank. By this agreement, we exchanged exposures on portfolios of loans of equivalent risks. Each bank remains the lender of record. This innovative scheme has dramatically improved concentration risk ratio, created headroom, and the bank is therefore able to do significantly more in certain countries where hitherto we were constrained. So this is just one example. Of course, we are continuously innovating as we should, while at the same time maintain our pristine credit rating.
Assetu, let's hear about the capital market activities. There has been a sizable increase in your funding needs in 2016 compared to the past 4 years, $8.5 billion. What is driving this large increase?
The increase in our funding program is largely driven by the increase in approvals that we had last year and the scaling up of our operations that is expected for 2016 and the years to come. So higher approval means higher disbursements, leading to higher funding requirements. And what I want to add here is that since 2014, because of a change in our credit policy, we have 6 countries that were not able to borrow from the African Development Bank before, could only access the African Development Fund, can now and have access AFDB funding. And we have a very strong pipeline of projects, obviously.
And do you have the same funding strategy as in the past years?
Absolutely. Our objective is to raise resources in a cost-effective manner in order to on lend to our clients, to our member countries, at the best possible price. And what we do, actually, we have a global footing, and our team scores capital markets across the world, from Australia to Zambia, issuing in various instruments, currencies, and markets. And as of today, our borrowing portfolio is about $22 billion.
Thank you, Asatou. As you know, ladies and gentlemen, French is one of the 2 official languages of AFDB. So I will ask those of you that are not yet bilingual to use their headphones, car cette présentation va se poursuivre à présent en français. Asatou, je continue avec vous, car la BAD est très présente sur les marchés financiers internationaux avec ses milliards de dollars d'émissions obligataires de référence mondiale qui interpellent et attirent les investisseurs à travers le monde. Est-ce que vous pouvez nous en dire plus?
Oui, tout à fait. Alors, nous avons émis l'année dernière 2 emprunts obligataires de 1 milliard de dollars chacun. Et cette année, nous avons lancé deux opérations. Et nous comptons en lancer peut-être 2 ou 3 d'ici la fin de l'année. Alors, ces emprunts obligataires ont été couronnés de succès. Et nos investisseurs sont principalement des banques centrales, des fonds souverains, des institutions officielles. Nous avons également des gestionnaires de fonds, des trésoreries de banques, des fonds de pension, etc. Et
donc, vous voulez poursuivre sur ce domaine-là ou on passe au high five?
Non, enfin, on peut y aller.
Effectivement, donc, effectivement, la présentation suit le PowerPoint. Donc, ce sont des banques centrales, des fonds souverains, des institutions officielles, des gestionnaires de fonds, des trésoreries de banques, etc., voilà. Okay. qui gèrent cela. Okay. Un engouement certain, on remarque tout de même, pour la BAD et pour les high five. Mais qu'est-ce qui les intéresse tant?
Eh bien, ce qui intéresse nos investisseurs, c'est d'abord notre notation prestigieuse, 3A, et les fondamentaux solides de l'institution, comme Charles l'évoquait tout à l'heure. Et nous avons également la réputation de la banque, qui est très solide sur les marchés, la qualité de l'exécution de nos emprunts obligataires, bien entendu, et nous avons également une belle performance sur les marchés secondaires, ce qui aide pour le pricing que l'on exige pour nos émissions à venir. Nous offrons une exposition 3A à l'Afrique, ce qui est plutôt rare, et surtout, nous avons un mandat de développement qui est crucial.
Absolutely, a triple win. So you have security of the ADB's bonds, you have good returns, and of course you're also contributing to Africa's development. What could be better? And investors around the world are of course, we talked about it, central banks and investors around the world buying ADB bonds. Our goal is to see that all African central banks buy our bonds. And I said this last year and the year before, and we'll keep saying it until we have all African countries invested in our bonds. I have good news though, the numbers are increasing. We have 13 countries that have invested in our bonds. We have Algeria, Angola, Botswana, Egypt, Ghana, Lesotho, Madagascar, Mauritania, Morocco, Namibia, South Africa, Tanzania, and Tunisia, and the numbers are growing. So I hope we have some central bank governors in the room. We'll be knocking on your doors. They will be coming to you. So look for us.
Merci Charles. Mais Charles, étant donné qu'il est de notoriété publique que votre français est irréprochable, vous allez répondre à la prochaine question en français.
Tout à fait, tout à fait.
Asatou, la BAD a lancé une obligation croissance verte de 500 millions de dollars pendant la conférence COP21. Si mes souvenirs sont exacts, le magazine EMEA lui a d'ailleurs décerné le titre de meilleur emprunt obligataire. Dites-nous en plus sur ces émissions vertes.
Alors nous avons lancé notre première obligation croissance verte en 2013. Elle était de 500 millions de dollars. Et l'année suivante, nous avons émis sur le marché obligataire suédois avec donc 2 emprunts verts de 2 milliards de couronnes suédoises. Et l'année dernière, donc cette 4e émission durant la COP21. Et en fait, ce que je voudrais dire, c'est que le programme Obligation verte de la Banque africaine de développement est transparent. il est rigoureux et il répond parfaitement aux exigences des investisseurs socialement responsables. Et il est également appuyé par une série de projets verts financés par la banque selon des critères assez stricts.
Donc en somme, vous avez une nouvelle corde à votre arc, une base d'investisseurs plus dense grâce notamment à vos obligations croissance verte. Quels sont les projets verts qui soutiennent votre programme?
Alors nous en avons plusieurs et donc là on va vous en montrer certains. Il s'agit en Afrique du Sud, on a Zina qui est un projet solaire. Nous avons également au Nigeria un projet d'assainissement et d'alimentation en eau potable. Nous avons également
Après le Nigeria, on a le Kenya aussi.
Oui, on a le Kenya avec Lake Turkana, excusez-moi, qui est le plus grand parc éolien d'Afrique. Et nous avons également au Maroc aussi bien un projet solaire, mais aussi un projet de distribution d'électricité qui réduira les pertes d'énergie. Et enfin, en Zambie, nous avons une centrale hydroélectrique, Itezi, qui augmentera considérablement l'approvisionnement en énergie du pays pour soutenir sa croissance rapide, justement.
Et je note d'ailleurs que la BAD, sur la diapositive, que la BAD bénéficie d'une bonne notation quant à ses critères environnementaux, sociaux et de gouvernance. Charles,
Oui.
comment aider les pays africains à financer leur croissance verte?
Marie-Angèle, de plusieurs manières, mais permettez-moi de me concentrer sur l'aspect ressources. Vous savez, nous mobilisons des fonds concessionnaires pour rendre les financements climatiques plus attractifs. Je vous donne quelques exemples. Nous avons réussi à attirer des ressources du Fonds d'investissement climatique, du Fonds pour l'environnement mondial, du Fonds d'énergie durable. Nous venons d'être accrédités, il y a pas même 5 mois, et sommes maintenant agents d'exécution pour les fonds verts, pour le climat, en anglais c'est Green Climate Fund. Et ces fonds ont pour objectif de mobiliser pour ces opérations à travers le monde, déjà pour 2016, un montant de 2,5 milliards de dollars. Un grand nombre de pays africains sont aujourd'hui engagés dans des programmes ambitieux qui intègrent l'action climatique au développement durable. C'est le cas, par exemple, du Rwanda, de l'Éthiopie et aussi beaucoup d'autres encore.
Et nous arrivons déjà au terme de cette présentation. Je vais donc laisser le mot de la fin à Charles. Je vous en prie.
Merci. Thank you. We have shared with you just a few highlights. You saw the video that showed some of the things the bank is doing, but also very importantly, the many challenges, I think through the videos, the many challenges across the continent. We have a plan, we call that the High Fives, and in the African Development Bank, with your support and with the support of our governors, our member countries, of course, you have in the African Development Bank a trusted partner. You have in the African Development Bank a financially solid institution that is ready to do its part. We know we can count on you to get hundreds of millions of Africans out of poverty. We thank you very much.
Thank you. So the message is crystal clear. The distinguished guests, feel free to pick up the booklets that will be on the tables next to the exit at the end of the lunch. I know that you're waiting for the lunch. Thank you for your patience and your attention. It has been my pleasure to be your host today. Thank you, Charles, and thank you, Asatu, for all these clarifications, and bon appétit.
Merci.